Hey, what's up, guys? It's Terry from True Champion Gaming here with Jimmy Lee, the champion here in Castleberry, Florida at the Florida Grand Archive Regionals. And we're going to talk about his deck today. Why don't you tell us about what you played and, went undefeated with today?
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the channel. I would just love to talk about my deck and kind of get the knowledge out there to the players. So on my deck, I'm going to go through it card by card, explain the card. My material deck, it's Fire, Spirit of Fire, starts. And then it's a Lorraine deck. I apologize, I love my warriors. I be here through thick and thin. But it's Lorraine level 1, and my 2/0 cost swords are Sword of Seeking and Adversity. Typically it's seen as Sword of Seeking as like the default sword, but in my list it really isn't. It really depends on like board state. If I have a rending and I have either no board or I have one unit in a cremation and I have that hone, I'm definitely gonna go for Sword of Adversity. There are other times too, other than the rending play, like perhaps I don't plan on swinging the sword and I want a flame sweep for a larger number the next turn. I can plan that out. I'll go for Sword of Adversity. Seeking is typically for when like I have that board, Adversity is never going to get the value, or like I have a Blazing Throw. That way I can get the value from swinging with it and then the value from Blazing Throw as well. So that's the swords. And then we have level 2 Lorraine. This is where we top off. We are an aggro deck. We don't play level 3 cards, advanced element cards. Level 2 is the extra health is nice. It's mainly for the +2 and on-kill draw. Sometimes you will, the flame sweep is always a good play. Draw a bunch of cards, or the +2. Sometimes you'll use it for lethal. And then next I have I would say like the elemental trinkets. This way I play GCR. I have GCR in the main, and then I have this as kind of like a helper in any matchup other than GCR. Now I can afford to do things like this because I am an aggro deck. I don't play level 3, so I save a slot from the champion. I don't play advanced element cards, so I save slots there. So I have basically GCRs and that specific matchup, Wind and Fire. This used to be the Water Resonant Bauble, but my deck actually really struggles into the water matchup, specific meta deck specifically, but just water is a good counter to my deck and fire. It makes sense. And I found that this could maybe help me better in that game 1 rather than the other way around, maining the Bauble and siding this in. Other than that, I have just 3 more cards. Smoke Bombs I would consider pretty MVP. I would say these last 3 cards are kind of your not exactly flex spots because they're all important, but they're more like they're more for they have like roles that they feel they help you out. Smoke Bombs is definitely there for, like, of course, Merlin. As long as Merlin plays Incarnate Majesty, the Stag is a really good counter to any type of aggro deck. The text box on that thing, it's just a really good counter. So this gets you through that. With the Varuk, gets you through that. And then anytime Interceptors are really good against my deck. So if you struggle against an aggro deck like mine, Interceptors, sometimes they do make the difference on whether you get Hone Rending for 14 or not. But this helps me get through an Interceptor when it's timely. And then I have the Drawn Blade. I wanted another sword. It's between this and Warriors, but sometimes you just need the draw more than you need. Like I like it for floating memory, get the card advantage, but sometimes I don't have I would say my deck, it's very strong, but you want a specific combo of cards, and if you don't have anything, it's nice to filter too. Sure. You lose one, you draw one. It's okay to filter. And then lastly, I have Orb of Regret. I hardly use Orb of Regret, but it does have its purpose. Sometimes like orbing early typically is not a great play, and over like ringing, over drawing an extra card is typically not great, and especially I would say in an advanced element deck. But in my deck, there are some times where like I'm just looking for something. Like I have my opponent on the ropes and their shields are down. I just don't have a Rending or Fire Momentum. Or my opponent has 2 floating memory in the bin and I don't have one of my 4 Scavenger Raccoon. So this, like, I could draw a card with GCR and that's looking at 2 cards, but if I orb, that's looking at kind of 4 cards because I'm looking at the card and then 3 more.
Right.
So sometimes this is just like, okay, they have 2 float. I'm looking for something. I'm gonna orb.
Yeah.
That's the main material deck, and then going on to the main deck. So it's gonna start with 4 creative, 4 cremation. These are kind of your main cards in fire. Like I've always, I think about my deck. I think about what are the main, like, what is the best card in my deck. Like, I think about the Arthur. I think about the Rending Flames. These high power cards. But in reality, this deck does not take off the ground without some type of filters, and these are your best. So you have Creative, you have Cremation. The rest of the filter package is your 4 Hasties, of course. And then I run 2 Clumsies main. This is kind of my filter package. These are honestly the best. Like, because they replace themselves when you play them. So you could do things like, it's typically 4 cards to play Creative, 4 cards to play Rending, but you could play Rending Creative off of like less than 8 cards because they refill themselves. This has really great application with destroying your own unit, so you can now Rending Flames with the Sword of Adversity. These are, of course, everyone knows they're great. Hasty Messenger is really great in my deck too. I do run 4 Floating Memory. So I have the 4 Tempered Steel that I would just really love to go into level 1 with. I also run 4 Flaming Swordsmen. They're just good allies. Other than that, my deck likes fire cards in the graveyard. That's like what I want to do. So like, even if I'm not discarding Floating Memory, like I'm discarding a fire card to fill my graveyard. And I think something that I see new players do that I would advise against. I sometimes see them swing a Hasty and they don't discard a card, and I'm like, sometimes you don't want to discard. Like, I don't have Floating Memory. There's kind of no point. But I think as long as if you have a hand of 6, and if one card in that hand is a bad card or just not a great card, you should discard and look for something else. You should look for better options. You can see more cards. So just a tip for the newer players out there with Hasty Messenger, you should always discard, even if it's just discard a trash card that maybe turn into maybe another trash card, but you didn't have to draw it for your next draw phase, or a really good card that saved you.
Right.
So that's Hasty. And then Clumsy is just really great in my deck. Any unit is going to be great in my deck because I play Arthur. So already the 2 plus the 2, take 2 to draw a card is good value in a fast deck. And if she swings in for 2, it's really good value for 2 costs. I feel like I would definitely play this into like mid-range control matchups, but I would never play this into like another aggro list, or like my mirror, or like the wind allies, the water allies. I would never risk it because it's not worth it. So these definitely have their place. They're really good into like a Merlin, like a Rye, like a deck that's gonna either not kill you or kill you anyways, where that 2 damage doesn't matter. It's really good value there. So that's the filter package. You saw some units there, and then I have my unit package. It starts with 4 Arthur. He's amazing. He pumps the board. Just amazing. A really amazing turn 0 play is pay 4, play him out Immortal. You can guarantee that he gets their next turn. Typically Immortal is just a really good answer, like especially if you know that they don't have counters. Like Dream Fairy is a really good counter to my Arthur. But if they don't run cards like that, or you don't think that they'll have them, Immortal's typically the way, because if you're gonna go for 2, you get Immortal and then swing for 2 next turn anyways, but you get the pump for both turns. But then, there are times when, if it's against a Merlin and you don't think that deck can do 3 damage from Spirit to Champion, like that's not what that deck does. You just know it's not within its ability. So you could just swing for 2 and then swing for 2 next turn. It's good value. A really great card in my deck. And then I have the 3 Flame-Rune Swordsmen. They're amazing. They're the other 4 Floating Memory besides Tempered Steel. It's an aggro deck, so I don't need as much Floating Memory. It's a great unit. 3 for like 2, 2/2 is good stats. The difference between 2 and 1 in this game is astronomical. It's astronomical. Like it's double, but it's more than just that. It's like it makes a huge difference. Like whether my opponent lands at Honorable Vanguard and it stays around for 3 turns and pings me for 1, not a big deal. But if it's a Flame Rune and pings me for 2 every turn, that's 6 damage. They land 2, that's pretty tough to deal with. Perfect target for Cremation. Perfect. Arthur makes him a 3. Good value. And then I have Strapping Conscripts, 3 of them. It's just a good value card. With Arthur, it's a 2 cost, 3 damage. Otherwise, it's a good 2 for 3. I really like, it's mainly to use with Arthur. Like with that 8 card hand, going second, I could 4 Arthur, that's 5. 2 Conscript, that plus the Conscript, that's 8. That's my 8 card hand. It's a really good play to do 5 damage your first turn of the game. The level 2 effect does come up. Like it's very often that if I have 1 card in hand, typically if I'm gonna Flame Sweep, I'm gonna do it to draw at least 2 or so cards. So if I have 1 extra, so if I Flame Sweep, have 4 cards and 1 extra card, so that's what, 6 cards, I'll keep this one. I'll pay 4 for Flame Sweep, draw 2 cards, and then play now a 3 beater. It plays its role really well. It's not like it's not one of your filters. It doesn't pump the rest of the board, so it's not your most important, but it does play its role really well. And then I have 4 Scavenging Raccoon. This is it's an ally. It's my tech card. This is how I feel so favored into the advanced element decks. I feel so favored into Merlin, into Rye, because like if they filter, depending how they filter, like this is just really good value. And I get why it makes sense in my deck is I get double value out of Arthur and out of Cremation Ritual. Cremate Coon is nice and all, but if like again it's a 2 cost, so I have that option of 8 cards, go Arthur, Coon. It's really debilitating for my opponent when I hit them for 4 and eat their Floating Memory. So it's really good. I've tried like I've been having trouble with the water matchup, so I've tried different things for my deck. I've brought this down to 2, and it just feels so good at 4. Because you really like when you want to see it, you really want to see it, and it's decent. It's really good. But Arthur kind of makes it not just like 4 blank cards otherwise. Really good. So that's the allies, and then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is your attacks. So it's 4 Rending Flames, 4 Fire Momentum. These are your main kill cards. You run 8 because you basically want to see 1 or 2 a game to win. It's super strong. The synergy with my deck is if I have a board of units and you destroy them all, typically that's a good way to like not get damaged, is destroying units on board, but then they're now fuel for my Rending Flames, for my Fire Momentum. So my deck has this really good strategy of if I can get units out early, like an Arthur, like my Hasties, get them out early, give you that early damage there with Arthurs and pumping the board, I can then finish a game once you clear my board with Rending Flame or Fire Momentum. They get really strong in my deck. They can get there really fast if I see the right cards, the filters, the hones. They can get there, and if you struggle into this deck, these are the cards to work out for. So like you have to think about like how many fire cards I have in yard versus how many cards I have in hand, and if you bring out Lantern, if it's gonna save you there, you have to, you know, if you play any prevention effects like Deflecting Edge, Resolute Stand, anything that prevents double against a Rending Flame, and the interceptors, you know, I have to get through them before I can hit you with these cards. So those are all things that are gonna save you against these cards. Quicksilver Lantern is kind of played from my deck. It's really good against it. Then you have the 4 Hone by Fires. You have the combo there with Rending Flames, where Rending Flames, you banish 3 fire, however much damage it deals double. Hone plus is the sword by 2. So that's an extra 4 damage with that combo. It gives your sword that durability, it stays around. That's the combo, is to be able to Hone and Rending. That's how you get that turn 1, turn 2 on like your best days. Rending Flames for 14 is you have the Sword of Adversity, which is 2, Rending is 3, Hone gives it plus 2, so 2, 5, 7, and then however much of damage it deals double. If they don't have that prevention, it's hitting them for 14. However, if they can play around it, you know, it's strong, but it's susceptible to interaction. Like if they have a Deflecting Edge that already prevents 6 damage, so that 14 goes down to 8. It's still a lot, but a lot better than 14. Zephyring my sword takes away the sword and the Hone pump, so that's 4. So you take out 8 damage. It's just Rending going in. Like there is interaction you can play, but that's what I'm going for with this deck. It's still good with Fire Momentum. It gives my sword plus 2. I can swing with it if I wasn't able to earlier, and it's another fire card for the graveyard. So it's basically plus 3. And then you have Flame Sweep. Amazing card. I could never go below 4. I think some of the best decks against my deck are the Wind Ally and the Water Ally decks. They're kind of strange because I feel like if I find the Flame Sweep and I can get there, then it's my win. But if I don't find the Flame Sweep, they can really take me down. So that's why I feel like it's like that. These are just amazing cards. Without them, I would never feel like I could win very well into those type of decks. This is what I'm looking for. The value of drawing from level 2. It's just I can't not play 4 Flame Sweep in an aggro deck. And then from here we kind of have like just cards that have their role in the deck. 3 Blazing Throw, amazing card. Help finish games, gets through Resolute Stand, and it's just really, it gets through Resolute Stand, which is huge. So if they hold a Resolute to stop you from beating them, maybe that 4 away is all you need. Run 3 because I want to see 1, maybe 2. If I see 2, that's a good game. I could see 2 and have my opponent be 10 away and feel like, okay, I'll just swing for 2 and 2 Blazing Throws, and that's the game. Now if they can like get around that, like Fast Cure or something, then you know, I did invest a lot. I lost 2 cards. I lost my swords. I did invest a lot to go for that. But the option's there. 3, I want to see 1 a game. I can discard if I see more than 1 and I don't plan on having multiple swords out. You have to run either Spurn or Acolyte to deal with Lantern, because I think my deck without the rending, the rending and the fire momentum, it's really tough. It's tough to win without those cards. Those are your key cards. So you have to deal with Lantern, and that's why I think Water is so good against my deck, because like, yes, you don't Fracturize Lantern every game, but I can lose the Water in many other ways. They have many cards that are good against my deck, and sometimes you just lose game 1 to maybe your level 2 Flame Sweep got Song of Frost, and then game 2 they Fracturize Lantern, and then it's tough to feel like you're gonna get it back from there. But that's why that's good there. You really want to get rid of Lantern. You have to have Acolyte or Spurn, and I've gone between both. Before I thought maybe I wanted to Spurn a Tithe or Spurn that new Water Scepter, but I've come to realize that the Water Scepter is kind of too slow into my type of deck anyway, so it's only hurting my opponent if they bring it out. And the Tithe didn't affect me enough to where I went for the Acolyte. Like, I used to have some level synergy. I used to run Crystal of Empowerment or Impassioned Tutors. I've tried them. They don't really mesh well with me. So I don't really get this level 3 bonus. It's mainly like if I have an Arthur, I do get that value. Sometimes I go, if I don't have much, but they have a Lantern, a good 8-card hand is Varuk and Acolyte, and then cremate it. You know, filter, see some cards, get rid of their Lantern, try again. Lastly, in the main, 2 more cards for Rook. Just good to have. I like to keep one. There are some matches where you absolutely really need it, like against that Merlin. Basically, if you get out Incarnate Majesty against my deck, you kind of win. I can sometimes have 1 turn left by a combo of this card and Smoke Bombs to make it so to give your Stag stealth so it can't intercept, and this to prevent its text box from reducing my damage by everything. So I have that there. Otherwise, it gets me through. Like, sometimes my opponent's holding and I have 8 cards and I have one of them's Fire Momentum and one of them's Varuk. I can just play Varuk, play Fire or Rending, and kind of feel like no matter what you have, I kind of got it here, unless people start playing Cry for Help again, giving out the tech to beat my deck all day. Just really good. I really feel like I need it though, because I'm Merlin. Without this, if they get out the Stag, you kind of don't win. I don't run Immolation Trap or anything, so you don't win. It's also good to have now, because I run Varuk. I can explain my sideboard. It kind of looks weird from the outside, but it's good against like Spell Shield Arcane as well, Resolute Stand, and then lastly my own Resolute Stands, 2 of them. 2 in the main, different from Ascent, because some of my harder matchups are Wind Allies and Water Allies. Like, Water Allies is kind of the roughest matchup for this deck. I didn't go into any today, so I didn't get to see how my tech was gonna go into it.
Sure, yeah.
I did also get to win me, we'll see how that would have went, but those are some of my hardest decks. So I have the 2 Resolute Stands. If I went against my mirror as well, this is really good there. You hardly ever do the level 2. You can. It comes up, but mainly I would like to go to level 1, have like maybe 8 cards. I'll pay 3 to Resolute Stand so I can live from their ally barrage. On my turn, banish 2 of them, go to Lorraine, and then I have that 5 cards for Flame Sweep. I'm there. So it helps you get there to the Flame Sweep, because the Flame Sweep, having the Flame Sweep is one half of the equation. Getting there to play it is the other half against those decks. So that's the main. So the main I kind of built in mind, like, I didn't want to auto lose in any matchup. However, when I was working on my deck, it's wrong too to try to go like 2 half and half and everything. I used to do like 2 Coons and 2, like, tried devastating blows and lowering the fiery moments. I tried adjusting the ratios, but like, you really have to stick to what you're good at, I feel like. I felt real consistent today, and then my sideboard just kind of helps you be some consistent.
I'm really excited for the sideboard because I've seen full threads online about your sideboards and people not understanding why. So a bunch of people are going to want to hear this. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, basically my sideboards basically make all my matchups better. So before, it used to be 2 material deck cards that were just generic. So I could replace it. If I were to go against Water, I would take out Fire and Wind Resonance. If I were to go against Fire, I would take out Wind Resonance and the Water Trinket. However, I just need the help in the water. So what I have here is I have Warrior's Longsword and Water Resonance Bauble. Warrior's Longsword always comes in. Either, depending on what element my opponent is, one of the 2 trinkets that don't matter come out. So this always comes in, and this comes in against Water. I need the help there. They're my worst matchup by far. Warrior's Longsword is just like that damage. It's kind of decent in the water. Like, if they get out that early Fracturized Lantern, I have to win off of allies, and honestly off of, like, I'm counting on Hone, Adversity, Warrior's Longsword, and base attacks. They're still going in for 7, so a couple of those, and they'll, they can't take very many. But that's kind of the game plan. Adds another sword, and then I have so I have 1 Resolute Stand and 1 Clumsy Apprentice each. Kind of like So in a deck where Resolute Stand, Clumsy Apprentice are kind of good into different types of decks. Clumsy's good into slower decks where they're not putting on the pressure because I can pressure myself to get the card to beat them faster. Resolute's against the decks that are good at putting on the pressure, so it saves me. Now, Clumsy against a deck that puts on the pressure, it could get me killed. And Resolute against a deck that doesn't really put on any pressure, it's a dead card. So they kind of like, against a Merlin, I'll take out my Resolutes and now have a third Clumsy. And against my ally decks, I'll take out some Clumsies and now have a Resolute Stand. And the rest of the sideboard is I have Focus Flames because that Water Allies list is my worst matchup. So I'm ready for it. Lunette's tough. The Frostborn Paladin is tough. They have a lot of X3s, X4s. So I'm trying out the Focus Flames. I did not really get a chance to go for it today. I didn't face any of those matchups, but that's what they're there for. I would take out 2 Clumsies and another card that just doesn't matter, maybe Varuk. Like, I don't really think that is too impactful in that specific matchup, and I'll put these cards in. And then I have a Blitzmage and a Sparklight. So if I were to, basically the idea is I have these cards, the Resolute and the Clumsies. I talked about, they kind of go hand in hand as to, like, they kind of like opposite as to what's good and what's not. So already, depending on the matchup, I'm sliding out at least 2 Clumsies or 2 Resolutes, depending on the matchup. So against decks where I want to go a little faster, pressure them more, these are cards that I want in, these are cards that I want out. Against decks that are a little like slower, I want to play a little more mid-range or control-y, these cards come in and I want the Clumsies out. But maybe I want to be the control deck there. So that's kind of the idea behind my sideboard.
Sure, lets you pivot depending on what the matchup is and what you need to do.
It definitely lets me kind of hone in and kind of concentrate more on how I'm going to beat that matchup, basically. Totally. Game 2, game 3.
Well, man, that was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to walk us through this awesome deck. People said Fire's dead. Jimmy Lee's here to tell you it's not. I also ended up being in the top 4 of this event as well, and I was also on a Fire Graveyard deck. So I don't know, man. We didn't see a lot of water today, but Fire's not dead. That's all I got to say. So is there any last words you'd like to say, Jimmy?
I just want to say, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I get to talk about my deck. I love talking about the game and my deck, and I bet you it was a lot, but I think it's a lot of info, and I really want to extend the hand out there to new players. Like, if they ever have any questions about the game, about matchups, about my deck specifically, maybe even if they like have trouble with it and want to figure out what they could do into it, they could always reach out to me. I'm on the Discord, JimmyHL1329. I just want to do my part for the game.
Yeah. Hey, man, thank you so much again. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great job going undefeated today, and I'm sure we'll see you at the next tournament, brother.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.